What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man. I just got through watching episode 5 and episode 6 of the Last Dance documentary, documented that 98 season and pretty much documenting Jordan's career over this 10-part series. But what did I glean from this? And Michael Jordan is the most competitive superstar I think that anybody has ever seen in any sport. Winning fueled him. Um, Getting the best of people it fueled him. He wanted to let everybody know that there was no comparison to him, that he was the greatest at what he did all the time. And if he wasn't the greatest at it, he was going to strive to be the best at it, whether it was playing golf, whether it was gambling, whether it was on the basketball court, whether it was anything. Um, One thing that really got to me was when the Bulls played the Trailblazers in their second championship. Was it the '91 season? Um, it was interesting because a lot of people, always put Jordan and Clyde Drexler in that same category as the top two guards in the league, and they were the top two guards in the league. It just so happened that Jordan was so far ahead of the next guy that it wasn't really a comparison, and so everybody's saying, hey, we got the number one and the number two guy at their position, who's better, yada yada yada. And Jordan basically said Clyde was a threat, but for people to compare him to me was offensive. That's big talk because Clyde is one of the 50 greatest players of all time. We just know Jordan is the top, right? So you're looking at that, and when you hear that, you're like, oh my God, like how competitive this guy is. So he took it out on the Trailblazers, beat them, and there's a lot of history with that because the Trailblazers had an opportunity to pick Jordan with the second pick in the draft when he came out of college. And they didn't. They picked Sam Bowie, and they only picked Sam Bowie because they felt like Jordan and Clyde were the same player, same position. So they needed a big man. And if you know anything about basketball back in the day, to win, you needed that big man. That's why the Rockets took Hakeem Olajuwon with the first pick. That's why guys like Patrick Ewing were always drafted first pick of the draft. So guys like Ralph Sampson and uh, uh, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq. You always see big men are always taken at the top of the draft because that's what rules the league at that time. So Jordan took it out. He took all his frustration out on Clyde Drexler, and it wasn't even close. The Bulls won in 6 games. Um, but another thing that I know people are going to talk about is the Dream Team. And if you go look at the tape, one interesting comment that Jordan said that that kind of threw me off a little bit was he said, Magic was the best point guard he's ever seen play, and Isaiah is number two. He's right behind him. And he said he respects his game, but he said no matter how much I hate him, I can't take that away from him. So that suggests to me that he still hates the man. And it's like, what did he do to him? I mean, did he beat him up? Like, what did he do to him? I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, what is the beef with Jordan and Isaiah Thomas? Jordan dethroned Isaiah Thomas, just like Isaiah Thomas had to go through the Magics and the Birds and kind of dethrone them so that they can get their 2 titles. And then Jordan dethrones them. And I know the handshaking thing, but man, get over it. How do you not like Isaiah Thomas for the handshaking thing when Dennis Rodman was on that team? He joined your team. John Sally was on that team. He didn't shake your hand. He ended up playing for the Bulls for a year and got a championship with with the Bulls. I think in that '97 season. Uh, you know, I just don't get it. And maybe it's not for us to get, guys. Maybe it is not for us to get. But I think we missed out on some great basketball. We saw some of the greatest players of all time. Everybody on that team were Hall of Famers, with the exception of Christian Laettner. He was the one college kid that got picked, and everybody else in that team were Hall of Famers. And it would have been amazing to see an Isaiah Thomas throw an alley-oop to a Scotty or Michael Jordan. I mean, just to kind of break the barriers, because everybody knows sports. What it does is it does break the barriers. It lets everybody know that when you're in that same locker room, no matter how much you hate each other, or how much you thought you hated each other, you're all alike. And when you're on the same team and you got to be in the same team for a while, it's not an all-star game, right? It's not like you're on the same team for a couple minutes and you have a couple practices. This is for an Olympics, and so you're going for a gold medal, like for your country. And it's a shame to not see those two get over their differences and play with each other. I mean, like, damn, look at Larry Bird barely played. Think about that for a minute. His back was so jacked up. They put him in for a couple minutes a game, and then he went to the sidelines, laid in his stomach all game to rest his back. I mean, he barely played. Like, that was no disrespect to the great Bird. He was an amazing and great player. Definitely one of the top 5 players to ever play this game. But what did he contribute to the Dream Team besides being Bird? You know, I know I'm going out on a limb saying that, but he basically sat out. I mean, he didn't play. He was hurt, but he was in the Dream Team. And I get it. Maybe the camaraderie is, Bird was, a guy that they wanted to be able to get that first gold medal for the Dream Team, for people who were the true, no kidding, some of the pioneers for this generation. I get it. But Isaiah Thomas should have been in that team. Should have been in that team. There's a couple players that weren't better than him that were in that team. And I'm not going to get into that, but it is what it is. So, talking about the Dream Team, talking about the Olympics that year. Toni Kukoc, man, poor Toni Kukoc. They played for the gold medal against the Bulls. Against the Dream Team. So they played 2 games. They played like in a semifinals game, and then they played in the finals game against them, or a quarterfinal, something like that. Excuse me, guys. I had to yawn. It's like almost 1 o'clock here, guys. However, the backstory with Toni Kukoc is Jerry Krause drafted Toni Kukoc, and he drafted him during the time that Pippen wanted to renegotiate his contract, or Pippen was going to sign his new contract. Well, I think it was that 7-year, $18 million contract. So Jerry Krause, as the GM, does his GM job, and his GM job is to go find the talent. And so he went to Croatia and saw the guy play overseas, and saw him in the Euro leagues or whatever league that he played in, and he drafted him in the draft. And Toni Kukoc didn't come over to play for the Bulls. Like, his first 2 years, after being drafted, he stayed in Croatia because he was making, a couple $1 million a year, which was a significant amount more money than what he was making, than what he would have made in the NBA. So he stayed over there, and then he just didn't want to leave because, they had a war going on at that time in that area, and he wanted to be close, I guess, to his family and not just leave because of the situation at hand. So in the Olympics, the first game that the Dream Team played against Croatia, Pippen and Jordan took it to him. They straight murdered the kid. And you kind of feel bad because, for Kukoc, because it's not his fault that Jerry Krause was doing his job. He's doing his due diligence, which is, as a GM, is supposed to get the best players possible. But the second game, was the finals, and the Dream Team ended up winning. However, Kukoc had a good game. He had a really good game. He's a tough kid, right? I mean, you got to think, his country's going through war. You think a basketball game where he gets dogged out of games is going to kill him? No, he's good player. Good, solid player in the league for a while. My question about this, my comment about this, I understand. Jerry Krause did a lot of bad things for the Bulls. But he also did a lot of great. I wouldn't even say a lot of bad things. He did a lot of great things for the Bulls. He's the one who kind of traded for this tall, skinny, lanky kid named Scottie Pippen that was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics that nobody knew about. He went overseas and did his due diligence to go get a Toni Kukoc, right? Which is what Greg Popovich does every year. He goes and finds that guy that nobody knows about, and he puts him on his team, and next thing you know, they're a freaking all-star. He traded away George Tomey, Charles Oakley to get Bill Cartwright, right? Later on, he goes and gets a Dennis Rodman because he can help him win. So as a GM, the man was doing his job. Where I think Jerry Krause went wrong is that he wanted a lot more of the shine than was given to him as a GM, and that's where the fine line comes in. That's when the people in the front office want to be as famous as the player, and that's never going to happen because the people don't associate the team with the GM. They associate the team with the player. They associate the Bulls with Jordan. They associate the Bulls with Pippen. They associate the Bulls with a Horace Grant, who also Jerry Krause drafted. I think later on in that draft. And so, he was very monumental in that Bulls team because he helped construct it, he helped build it, and he just wanted a little bit of the credit, and I get it. And so when you don't get some of the credit, you become a little dissatisfied. You become, you feel like people don't appreciate what you're doing. And so I think there should have been some give and take on both ends. Jerry Krause should have bowed down a little bit, but the guys shouldn't have disrespected him as much as they should. But that's neither here nor there. I wasn't in those meetings, those conversations. Hell, I was a 12-year-old kid at the time, probably watching those games, or 11-year-old kid. So, yeah. What do you do with that? I mean, like, how do you come back from situations like that where you got a guy like Jerry Krause who technically built this team, technically had the forward thought to know that triangle offense was going to be something amazing. So he put the guy who he brought up from Kansas State, Tex, and married up Phil Jackson with him. He kind of stole Phil Jackson away, brought him on as an assistant coach, had Tex groom him so that he can take Doug Collins' job. So, I mean, there's a lot of forward thinking there, a lot of strategy, and everybody benefited. I think where Jerry Krause went wrong was when he decided that he wanted to rebuild this team, and one of the biggest assets that he could get rid of to get more talent to put around Michael was to get rid of Scottie Pippen, who was arguably a top 5 player in the league at that time. And I think what Jerry Krause was thinking, if I can get rid of a top 5 player and bring in some young assets, we can run this thing back and do it and refresh it. And then once we refresh this thing, I can set the team up for championships, more championships along the way, and not just be settled at the 6. Maybe we can have 9 or 10 later on and turn some of this into some draft picks and some great players. But that's the sneaky part of business, right? It's a business. And I think what players don't realize is sports is a business. We all want loyalty. I'm in the military. I want loyalty, But guess what? There's no loyalty unless it's your own. And it's not your own, so it's not loyalty. It's a business, and you can be replaced. Just like in the military, if something happens to me tomorrow, guess what? The job's going to keep going on. And I think in the sports world, it's the same. It's the same way. It's that no matter what happens, the job's going to keep going on. And it might not go on at the same heights, but guess what? Those billionaires are still going to be billionaires. It's a business. So there could have been some give and take on both sides. I think the players probably could have respected Krause a little bit more. I think Krause could have backed off. And if he would have backed off, I think the players would have given him the respect that he probably was wanting. So let's talk about a few more things, guys. The Jordan Rules book by Sam Smith. So, it's kind of opened up a whole new can of worms, on Jordan, about the gambling and other different things that what's going on with Jordan. So, you know what? Let's talk about that, guys, on the second end of this podcast, right? So we'll go to a small commercial break, guys, and I'll get back with you. All right, guys, and we're back. So I got a question for you guys. We were talking about the Sam Smith book, the Jordan Rules, who Jordan basically thinks that Horace Grant kind of dimed him out and told everything about him. But, like B.J. Armstrong said, it couldn't have just been Horace. It could have been coaches and other players. Jordan wasn't the most well-liked player on the team. When you have a leader who is great and is very demanding, some people get rubbed the wrong way. You see it in every organization, because when you're really great at something that you do, when other people can't reach the same heights that you can, you get frustrated. We all understand it. If you have children, right? Like you've lived life. I'm, a certain age. I've lived life. I've had a bunch of years on this earth. I've been in the military for some time, and I know how to do things. But when my kid can't do something, I'm like, why can't you just figure it out? But he's a child, so it takes time. And that's the same way when it comes to great leaders is you might not be able to teach them right away what it is that you do. And even if you teach them, they might not be physically able to do the same things because they don't have your talent. So it's hard when somebody's really great and winning fuels them, and it's at all costs. Winning at all costs, not trying to hold your hands, be friends. It's winning at all costs. It's a game, so we're trying to win, right? So, once those reports started to come out, Jordan started to have a little bit of his armor chiseled off him a little bit. So you kind of get into a situation where he becomes human, and we were looking at Jordan. Let's be honest, as a basketball god, and this is when we have to look at and understand that our favorite entertainers, which is what sports is entertainment, is they're human also. They're not immortal. They're mortal beings also. So, um, with this part of the podcast, I kind of want to dig into a conversation of um, should our athletes should they comment on issues that are politically driven? Should they comment on issues that are socially driven? So like, what do you guys think? Because when you start to dig into this last episode and you see Jordan with the gambling, and his gambling has kind of got him into a few incidents, not as far as money incidents, because he had the money to pay his debts. That's like, I wouldn't even call them debts. He just gambled, So did he have a problem? Some might say yeah. Some might say no. But what do you? How do you look at your favorite athlete if that's their main source of entertainment? I don't have a problem with it. If he wants to gamble, he wants to gamble. But some of the things that he was doing was a little bit sketchy here. So let's take a look at this guy, Slim Bowler. All right, looks like Jordan wrote him a $57,000 check because Jordan didn't go to the White House when they won their second or third championship. I think it was their second championship. He was out playing golf with this guy, Slim Bowler. Lost to him to the tune of $57,000. So he had to write him a check for 57 grand. Now, the sketchy part about this is Slim Bowler ended up getting indicted, I guess, on drug charges, trafficking and things of that nature, and they had to call Jordan to the stand. And so Jordan said he gave him a loan initially and said he was embarrassed to say that he had lost the money to him. He had to write him a check for gambling. He didn't want that information to come out there. And I just feel like, a lot of things go on behind closed doors in sports, and more so back then because we didn't have social media and things of that nature. But just think about some of your favorite athletes, and if they had that kind of company around. Think of the greatest players that you've seen had that kind of company around them. So what do you do? How would you feel about that? This is a convicted drug dealer or trafficker, whatever he is. So Slim Bowler, what do you do? Also, let's talk about the political side of the house. Now, some of our favorite athletes, from Muhammad Ali's to who else? LeBron's, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, the Jim Browns, Dwayne Wade's, and Chris Paul's. Have all stood up for social justice issues. And they've all stood up to help endorse, people who are running for office, who could potentially help and aid other people that look like them and have been through some of the struggles that they've been in. So if you guys remember, guys, so Harvey Gantt ran for senator, in the state of North Carolina. He's running against one of the, the most racist senators that you can think of. And, I guess Jordan's mother wanted him to endorse, Mr. Gantt. And Jordan didn't do it. And he made the comment, guys, that, hey, why would I do that? Because Republicans buy shoes too. And should you look for your athlete to be a active participant in speaking on political issues? I'm kind of indifferent about this. As a black male, we don't have a lot of, black males who are that successful. It's sad to say, but a lot of our success stories are in the entertainment business and in sports business. And I look at sports as entertainment. So you have your LeBrons, you have your Muhammad Ali's, your Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, and your Jim Browns. I mean, you just think about that. Now we have an Obama who is, a president, or a former president. You have other people who have built fortunes and have some clout with them, that when they say something, it matters, but none other than guys who are sports, and especially a guy who was the best player to ever play his game. Do you think Jordan should have been a little bit more politically driven as far as speaking up on certain things? It's the fine line when stuff like that happens, because you just don't want to tarnish your image. If you say something that a subset of people who buy your products don't agree with, and then it's a fine line as hey, I'm going to say this because I think it's right. And I understand what Jordan was saying in the documentary. So he didn't know the guy, but what he did was he did send him some money for his campaign, but he wasn't gonna outwardly endorse him, and I totally understand that. But then it's like you have to look at the alternative too, and the alternative ended up getting elected to that Senate seat, and the alternative was somebody who was pretty outwardly racist, and it kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So, what do you do? What do you do? That's a hard situation for me. I don't know what I do. I know I would probably step up and say something because of all the things that are going on in this world. But it's a different time now. So we have that opportunity and that platform to do it and not feel like, we are suppressed and saying it, or feel like we have to kind of bow down and not say anything. And I'm not saying Jordan felt like that. Jordan just wanted to play ball. Like some people just want to play ball. Some people don't have it in them to step up and do that right thing. I look at what the NBA players did with the "I Can't Breathe" shirts on when Eric Garner got choked out. The Donald Sterling thing with the Clippers and all the players. Basically basing that they were going to boycott it if he was still the owner of the Clippers. So there's been a lot of instances. The Trayvon Martin, incident where LeBron and the whole Heat team, Dwayne Wade, they wore hoodies and took a picture. Like some of these issues affect not just the people that it happened to, but it affects the masses. And I think sometimes the people who have the biggest voice and have the opportunity to touch the most people are the people who are famous. And so that is your LeBron James, that is your Michael Jordan, that is your Michael Jackson back in the day, or that is your Dwayne Wade, that is your Jim Brown. So, just gotta think about that. What do you guys think about that? Should your athletes be involved with politics? And I'm not saying be involved with politics like they're gonna run for office, but should they be speaking up on certain issues if they believe in those issues or not? Or do they just shut up and dribble, like the girl from Fox News said? So just think about that, guys. But I know, guys, it's time for me to get out of here. It's late. So, like I always end this, guys, do you, man. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance, man. NinosCorner, I'm out, baby.